5-6 years ago, I think the only gaming company which you heard of was Dream 11, right? Now you've just got so many more. But opportunity comes your way, if it's exciting, just say yes. You may be scared. You may feel I'm not qualified enough. It's okay, you'll figure it out. You are smart enough. And I think every adult at the end of the day wins it. So the games today, as you said, are aggressive. The storylines and plot lines are mar, dhar, dishum, dishum. The objectification of women, we spoke about waifu, right? As a part of the storyline, the visualization, the design, the aesthetics of the way the women are shown is like objectifying them, right? And if you have women who are on the design team, on the storytelling team, on the creative team, their outlook would be different. Gamers spend about 50% of the time playing games. The remaining 50% of their gaming time is actually viewing gaming content and creating gaming content. So which is why Twitch is very big, right?
Did you know women represent more than half of all gamers globally? Yet, as per the Game Changers Coalition, a UNICEF initiative for gender equality and gaming industry, less than 25% of the gaming industry workforce is women. So what? How does it matter? Well, if you are a gamer or no one, don't be surprised by the discriminatory gender stereotypes or lack of inclusive and safe content in gaming. This and much more came up in my conversation with Juhi Hajela, Vice President Global Marketing at BlueStacks, now GG and Game.tv. Something that stunned me was a time in her life when she chose to quit Google as the head of global program management because she felt she wasn't good enough. Relatable much? Now, let's hear what this CXO talks. So happy to have you here with me, Juhi, on CXO Talks today. How are you feeling?
Wonderful. Thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. And it's great to meet your team and Jamun outside.
Thank you for making time. And I know that you have a very busy schedule, especially being in a part of the gaming industry. I think there's so much that's always happening, regulatory to so many other things. But I'd love to know how your journey into this gaming industry really began with BlueStacks.
Right. So I've always worked in technology. I worked at companies like Google and Make My Trip and Sterlite. So I've always been in technology. Gaming just happened by chance. So I think pre-COVID, I was fairly active on Twitter and I would be sharing my tweets and updates. And a friend of mine from school, he had moved to the US 25 years ago, and he was the smartest kid in class, by the way. He was like one of those guys who had gone to IIT. He was a gold medalist, then went on to Berkeley, Stanford, all of that he had done. And he was an entrepreneur. He had built and sold multiple companies. Then he reached out to me one day. He said, "क्या कर रही है? Marketing में क्या चल रहा है आजकल?" So, we just had this chat. He said, "अच्छा, you want to work with me?" I was like, "No, I don't." I said, "I don't, I'm not a gamer. I don't know gaming. What is this about?" So then we started talking, and he spoke about what he was up to. I started reading up. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a gold mine. This is so exciting. Where have I been hiding all this while?" So as I started exploring, reading up, I said, try karte hain, why not? So that's how I entered gaming. And yeah, so that was 3 years ago. And I'm still here. I think I'm just like learning everything new every day. And as I was telling you earlier, I think gaming is an extension of technology, right? Because at the backbone of gaming is tech. So the transition was easy and difficult. Easy because I'm very sort of comfortable in a tech company. Difficult because I'm not a gamer. It was something new that I had to figure out. Yeah. But it's been a fun ride.
Interestingly, I remember as kids playing those games, basics, right? Mario, Contra. But from then to now, how gaming as an industry has evolved in India and globally, of course. And what I also read was that right last year, like in the financial year 2022, the gaming market in India hit $2.6 billion. And that's huge. But then that also means that, like you said, it's just an extension of technology. The fact that beyond just gaming as kids like to play, there's so many more opportunities. You yourself are in marketing, but how have you seen the market opportunities evolve over the last few years that you've seen this industry grow?
I think if I look at India, about 5-6 years ago, I think the only gaming company which you heard of was Dream 11. Right now, you've just got so many more. So you've got so many native Indian startups. You've got international companies here in India. At a global level, of course, it's huge. And even in terms of gaming, you've got multiple types of gaming. You can play on the console. So you could have your Xbox, you could have a Nintendo PlayStation, you could play on a PC, you could play on the mobile phone, you could play on the cloud. Even in terms of the type of games which you have, you've got these complex games with complex storylines, like your role-playing games and action games. You've got simpler games. For example, you spoke about Mario. Now, if I look at it, Mario was huge then.
Huge.
Mario Tetris was crazy. But now, those games seem simple, right? So you've got like various people play various games. So yes, a huge amount has happened. And in terms of the roles in gaming, if for people working in the gaming industry, a lot more opportunities, so you can do the regular functions which you would do in a regular company: finance, HR, marketing, sales. And of course, you would have to wear the hat of gaming to do it, but then you would have certain specialized functions. For example, in my company, we actually have a gaming team. So, we've got a group of, I don't know, I think some 8-10 people who are gamers, who are core gamers. And their job is to basically sit back and give us feedback. ये ठीक चलता है, वो ठीक नहीं है, ये करो, वो करो. So they play games all day, right? And, like so at the CXO level, most of us are in our late 40s, early 50s, right? We are not the audience.
Yeah.
We know how to run businesses, but we are not gamers. So we reach out to these guys. And in each team, even on the marketing team, I've got people who play games, because if I don't have them, I can't market games.
Yeah.
So these are the guys, who come to me, ऐसे करते हैं, वैसे करते हैं. And then I wear a different hat, I'm seeing marketing from a different lens. And then we have these conversations, and then it goes. So I think if you are into gaming, huge amounts of opportunity. Even if you aren't into gaming, you want to work in an industry which is at the sort of leading edge of technology. Because for gaming, virtual reality, AI, all of this is very, very real. Crypto, blockchain, Web3 is very real for us. So if you're interested in such things, it's the industry for you. So I think it's very, very cutting edge, loads of opportunities, and it's a growing industry, as you said, both in India and outside.
Absolutely. Reminds me as, again, going back to some element of nostalgia, is that parents would always discourage kids from playing games.
Yeah.
Games kyun khel rahe ho? Why are you playing video games? Just go get back to your studies. And now is a time when you see that gaming is a full-fledged career opportunity. Like the gaming team that you have,
Correct.
the insights that you draw from them is very interesting to me, because I can't imagine that many eons ago
Not
that would
at
have been
all.
an opportunity.
There was this guy on my team, he's left. He was on the marketing team, and he was very fond of playing games. And then he became a dentist.
What?
He was like a regular kid, खेल रहा है घर पे. Then he chose to become a dentist professionally. उसने अपना, I think he finished his residency or something, ऐसी कुछ था. Then he told his parents one day कि मुझे नहीं करना. I've got a job, to work at BlueStacks now, Gigi, and I'm joining them. And I'll be, like doing gaming. And his parents' jaws dropped.
Of course.
But उसने किया वो.
Wow.
So now opportunities हैं. So, I think earlier it was opportunities नहीं थी, hence it was a taboo. Now that you have credible opportunities, it is no longer as much of a taboo, I think.
And interestingly, another thing that you pointed out was the adaptation of AI to Web3, so many other things. And this again takes me back to now a year or two back, when I remember that Web3 was just becoming hot for us, but for kids and for young, teens and the Gen Z who were already so glued into gaming, they were like, Web3 is not new.
It's very native to them.
It's very native to them. And when we were just figuring out Web3 and we were figuring out metaverse, they were like, we already know about all of this, and we already know about crypto. They already knew so many things that we were just adapting to. So that's a very interesting insight that the gaming industry brings.
Correct.
How have you taken on to this industry as a marketeer? What's your journey in terms of understanding? And if you were to give insights to especially women who are an audience to the show, who want to create a career as a marketeer and in a different industry that they've probably not been a part of, what are some insights that you would want to share from a perspective of learning that these are few things that women can do to be able to grow a career as a marketer, or even as any other in any other domain, but if it is not native to them as an industry?
So my experience has been, or my mantra has been, just say yes. So whatever opportunity comes your way, if it's exciting, just say yes. You may be scared. You may feel I'm not qualified enough. कैसे करूँगी? कैसे होगा? It's okay. You'll figure it out. You are smart enough. And I think every adult at the end of the day wings it. We all wing it. So it's okay. If it is exciting, just say yes. You will figure it out. Whether it is gaming, whether it is XYZ. If you ask me about Web3, I know just the tip of the iceberg even today.
Yeah.
So every day you learn. And I think the key is consistency, right? If you show up every day and if you have that interest, you learn and figure it out. So that is my mantra to every woman, man, child out there about anything new.
Just say yes.
Just say yes. And I think gaming is new, right? So that's what I would say. And as we were talking about this earlier, there are so many opportunities. So for example, you brought up this interesting point that if we had more women who were designing games, the nature of the games would perhaps be slightly different, right? So the games today, as you said, are aggressive. The storylines and plot lines are mar, dhar, dishum. And the objectification of women, we spoke about waifu, right? Wherein the women are, as a part of the storyline, the visualization, the design, the aesthetics of the way the women are shown is like objectifying them, right? And if you have women who are on the design team, on the storytelling team, on the creative team, their outlook would be different. So your outcome will be different. And your outcome will be more inclusive. In fact, it will expand the base of gamers because you will then end up appealing to different types of audiences. So you can say the same thing in movies as well, right? Like you had a certain type of movie where you had this angry young man, Amitabh Bachchan, dishum. It is one set of the audience. But if you look at the type of movies being made today, I think they appeal to a much larger audience base.
And that's a very, very beautiful statement that you've just made, and a parallel that you've drawn with movies. From a time when we've seen passive aggressive kind of content to now we see a Guneet Monga bringing Oscars home for Elephant Whisperers, which is such a beautiful movie. Like there's so much empathy to that movie, that the angle of just the lens of empathy and seeing life in a very different way is something that women bring in, and that's a parallel that you drew when it came to the gaming industry as well. I would love to understand how's the representation of women in the gaming industry. I know that BlueStacks at the leadership level, as you mentioned, has 40% women, which is fabulous, which is incredible and applaud worthy. But how do you see this in the overall landscape when it comes to the global gaming industry, and maybe a little insight on the Indian gaming industry as well?
Yes, I think on the Indian gaming industry, as we were talking about earlier, I think most of the founders are men. The majority of the leadership team is men. But internationally, it's different. So not just with my company, the numbers which I shared were for my company, 40% in the leadership team, which is absolutely amazing. And it's all native. It's not based on any, we need to go and hire women. It's just native. And also, if I look at other studios, if I look at other companies, I think it is, you do have a fair number of women. If I know EA has a very strong women leadership team. So, we are finding more of that. And also, if I look at places like Japan and Korea, Taiwan, which are big on gaming, you find quite a few women there as well. So, I think it's just the maturity and how you grow, right? Because if the Indian startup ecosystem on gaming is very new, it's very small. But a company like EA and some of these larger studios have been around for much longer. So it's the maturity. It will happen, right?
Yeah. And
I'm optimistic.
talking about the maturity of the industry as it will evolve, what are some trends and insights that you observe as a marketer in this industry that are going to come through, that marketers
Yeah.
and people looking for opportunities can be more glued into?
So I think marketing in gaming can be a little bit different, which you end up learning. So, for example, we know that gamers spend about 50% of the time playing games. The remaining 50% of their gaming time is actually viewing gaming content and creating gaming content. So, which is why Twitch is very big, right? Twitch is basically games are being streamed and people are spending hours watching it. Someone else is playing, but you are spending hours watching it and you're leaving these comments, you're chatting, and they have their own language to chat. So it's very different. If you look at Discord, kids in the US are all on Discord.
Yeah.
And the way they play is, they'll be playing on a particular device, and they would also have Discord open where they're chatting and doing their voice chats. They're like voice chats and text chats. So the ecosystem here is quite different, So like when you're marketing, your channels are different.
Right.
And even if I look at Reddit, right, you've got so many subreddits on gaming and various aspects of it, and that's the core of the gaming users.
Right.
It's all about creating the community and to get the community to take your word out further. And people here are very committed. Once they get into it, they're like really into it.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to create this community and get them to become your ambassadors.
So
That's the challenge.
What I hear is that one, identifying where is your audience. So if it is newer channels like Discord, Reddit, and some other channels like that, then one, going to these places, and second, that finding those communities and bringing ambassadors from within those communities is what I hear from you.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So when you're doing traditional marketing, let's say FMCG, right? You would make an ad for TV, you would have your Chotu ad films on YouTube, you would do a whole bunch of offline marketing. So the approach there is quite different from what it is here.
Help double tap on this part when you say the approach is very different, and especially from the lens of storytelling and just branding for any gaming company. How does it work?
Yeah. So you've got a lot of cultures and subcultures, right? So you mentioned Mario. So like Mario is a certain type of game to appeal to a certain type of people. And then you've got complex games. You've got games like Free Fire, Call of Duty. You've got games which action oriented. You've got strategy games which have these extensive storylines. You need to follow those storylines and get there. You've got simple games like Candy Crush, right? So the way you appeal to each of these audiences is different. What I do is, in my company, we don't develop our own games. We are a platform. So we are a cloud platform, and we work with developers to have their games on our cloud platform. And in turn, we market this to the users. Users come to our cloud platform and they can play, right? So now here again, what am I marketing? I am marketing the benefits of the cloud, the ease of cloud gaming. Why should you do it? What's in it for you? All of that, right? So it's a good mix of figuring out your channels, your audiences. So these basics remain the same, like which you would learn in marketing in an MBA class. आपका audience क्या है, channel क्या है, objective क्या है, all of that remains the same. But that changes from industry to industry. So when you're executing on the ground, your channels may change, your audiences would change. So that's what I spoke about, right? I spoke about Twitch and Discord. Something like TikTok is huge in the US.
Right.
So my users are not in India, as I had said, right? So sitting in India, my marketing team is in India, but I need to crack TikTok. और यहाँ पे तो TikTok banned है. So I need to figure out innovative ways to do that. So that's a whole lot of things.
I'm sure, but some more interesting examples that you and your team have probably executed using different strategies when it comes to marketing and storytelling. Like you've used different platforms. You've talked about Twitch, you've talked about TikTok, and sitting here in India, how to crack that in US. Just share some more examples that maybe can be a case study that we can definitely share with our audience.
So one specific thing I can talk about, which I'm working on right now, is that I want you to crack. If I look at my traffic, right, most of my traffic is coming from the states of California, New York. So essentially from the richer states in the US. And I know that my users typically play on the Chromebook. These are things which you can figure out basis your analytics.
Right.
Now I need to crack the large space of central and southern US and to figure out how to reach audiences there, right? Then based on a bunch of surveys which we did with people who play on our platforms, it looks like they want micro influencers. So not those big time influencers like a Carrie Minati or a PewDiePie. They are looking at influencers whom they can relate to. So, for instance, I may think of you or other CXOs as my peer influencers. What you say will be more credible to me versus what an actress or a model says, right? Because it's more sort of relatable. So a similar thing. So now I'm launching an ambassador program in the US. So trying to recruit ambassadors who would do this for us. So that's this entire thing. So we recruit these ambassadors, we work with them. They are happy about the platform and the offering, and they in turn go and talk about us on TikTok, Discord, the channels which appeal to that peer group. So this is what is hot off the shelf happening today.
Interesting. And I think that's very insightful.
Yeah.
Of the use of micro influencers, and I think that's a parallel that we also draw when it comes to the lifestyle and the beauty industry and some fashion also, right? That from a time when we used to see Bollywood actors and actresses being used as brand ambassadors, which they still continue to, but brands now also leverage a lot of micro influencers because they have the power to influence an audience much easily. And they're more relatable. So I think that's a perspective that I find very interesting in the gaming industry as well. Now that you share, I would at this point in time also love to know about your journey much before you got into tech and gaming. Where do you come from? I know you've been on the Forbes Communication Council, and where did your journey really begin, Juhi?
I'm a Delhi girl. I went to school in Delhi. I went to modern Vasant Vihar, then went to Hindu college. So very Delhi girl. Then for my masters, I went to Oxford. I was very fortunate to get a full scholarship there. So that's where I went. Decided to come back. And this was like 1993. I didn't know what to do. I said, कुछ तो करना है, पर क्या करना है? I had no idea. Then through friends or something, they said, oh, यहाँ पर एक job opening है for an assistant for an editorial assistant.
Right.
I was thrilled. I thought editorial assistant means assistant to the editor, number 2 to the editor. Little did I realize that editorial assistant is the obviously entry level job. Anyhow, I took it up, and that's where I learned my basics. So like 1 year there, then moved on to India today, worked there for about a year and a half at the desk. Then there was an opportunity at McKinsey and Company. They were looking for communications people. And I said, hey, who wants to work for a consulting company? I loved working at India Today. It was this bindas environment. And those were the days when the editors would keep old Manka bottle in their drawers and stuff. And I'm talking years ago. Then to go to McKinsey, it was very buttoned down and everything, it was like very proper.
formal.
So my salary tripled, of course, from India Today to McKinsey. But that work culture, I was like, ouch, मैं कहाँ आ गई? But still, I was there for 4 years, learned an incredible amount. I think that was my training ground. They just drill it into you. So I remember the month I joined, we had trained, 4 girls had joined. We trained in India, went to Paris for a second training. From Paris, they flew us straight to Sydney for a third training. Then we came back. So apart from the glamour of it, it was a rigorous training. So I learned there a lot. Then there was maternity leave, so there was a break. Then I went back into journalism. This time I chose tech journalism, which is DataQuest, PCQuest, that group of publications. They were like really hot at that time. That was my entry into tech. So there also the story is funny. The first day I walked into the office, I saw these open servers and there's some RAM here, some hard disk there. I got scared. I said, ये क्या है? I had never even opened a computer. I said, वहाँ पे बड़े-बड़े server, सब कुछ खुला रखा है. So then it was scary. But as I said, chalo, yes, let's figure this out. That was an incredible place to work. I was there for 7 years. Then I founded a publication there on outsourcing. So this is, I think maybe late 1990, 2000s, when BPO, KPO, product outsourcing was big.
Right.
So I was a founding editor of an outsourcing publication there. That happened. Then I said, chalo bhi to ye sab kar liya. Google is my dream company. I want to work for Google. So, but Google mein kya karenge? No idea, because I was coming from a content background. Kya karenge Google? Just applied. And then I got a call. This was a job for a sales ops role. I'd never done sales ops. I didn't even know what sales ops was. Then I went for an interview, and wahan pe they have like 6-7 rounds of interviews. So I kept clearing. Finally made it to Google. Thrilled. This is my dream company. Very nice, very happy. But oh my gosh, I had no idea what I was getting into. So my life changed from writing Word documents to looking at Excel sheets and PPTs. I said, yeah, मुझे numbers नहीं आते हैं. Then in the first quarter, I was ready to quit. I said, ये मुझसे नहीं होगा. But persevered. And that was amazing. I thrived at Google, did wonderfully, had promotions, changed teams, did this, did that. तो वहाँ पे sales ops किया, project management किया. Then I was heading a couple of global teams, set up new teams. Very exciting stuff. Then, of course, like a good Indian mom, my daughter was in class 10 at that time. So I said, अभी तो उसको पढ़ाना है, board exams है. Then I left, went back, then I joined Make My Trip. Make My Trip was content, but this time when I approached content, I approached it with my Google hat.
Right.
Because then I wasn't just looking at how beautifully a piece of content was created, but what is the business value of it? ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्या
More
कर रहे हैं?
analytical and strategic about it.
Absolutely. Did that. Then I worked with Sterlite Tech. That's a Vedanta Group company.
Yeah.
Did that, and then now.gg and BlueStacks.
Yeah.
So
From this journey, I am very curious about a couple of things, and we'll start from where you started.
Okay.
You talked about India Today being your training ground. Now, the way you fondly recalled that period of that being a rigorous training ground, I'd love your insights from that period. What were those essential things that you learned while getting trained with India Today that maybe young people who are just starting their careers can really learn from that you feel still are relevant even today, even from back then?
I think for a person just starting off, it's the hard skills that are critical. As you grow, the balance shifts more towards soft skills as well, but it's core hard skills. So at India Today and at McKinsey, I learned how to edit to the extent that, so like one job before India Today, So when we proofread or edit now, it happens on MS Word. It's so easy. उस समय नहीं होता था ना. उस समय these like huge bromide sheets would come from the printer. And अगर एक letter was out of the way, we had to take a blade, cut that one letter out, keep it. They would send another sheet with the same font with every letter of the alphabet. वहाँ से निकाल के फेविकॉल से paste it back. So you just needed that eye for detail, that keen sense of looking at detail and then doing it. So basically getting your hands dirty and just like being in the weeds. So I think as a person starting off, you just have to be in the weeds. Keep your head down and your chin up.
What else did you learn from those days?
I think storytelling was another big one. So I think at India Today, what I learned was how to craft headlines, how to tell a story. Like small things like no one is going to read your 2-page story. Or headline padhenge, intro padhenge, photo dekhenge, caption padhenge. They'll start with the intro. If they like it, they'll read further. So, these are just simple things which you learn. And again, one specific example about attention to detail, I was at the desk. So the desk would do these night shifts. So there was a story on airlines. जिसमें aircraft लिखा था. और वो aircraft का ना मैंने रात में editing करते वक्त सब aircraft को aircrafts कर दिया. The author came in the morning, furious. Who has edited my piece? So मैं डर के मारे I like say मैंने किया है. He said, what is the plural of aircraft? Aircrafts? No, it's aircraft. ये छोटा चीज़ है, and that has remained. And now, of course, it's easy. You are editing. You would just search synonym, antonym, plural, this, that. That time, you just needed everything in your brain.
Yeah, you didn't have Google back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Talking about Google, now I want to... Okay, no, before Google, let me take a step back. You talked about storytelling. How do you craft stories? That is a skill that you learned. So let me ask you this question. How do you craft stories? I want that answer from the perspective of how entrepreneurs can learn storytelling. And even people who are looking to build their personal brands. What are few elements, maybe 3 elements that you would define are the key elements of doing your story right?
I think I would say 3 things. One is I would say keep it authentic. Don't faff. It should be authentic and relatable. Second, I think include personal elements because people want to hear personal experiences and personal anecdotes. So weave them into the story. And I would say include others because if it is always about yourself, you're bored. So your story has to include other people whom you know, whom either your audience knows or the audience themselves, ideally the audience themselves.
Yeah.
So personal, relatable, inclusive, include others, authentic.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that because that's going to be a reel then.
Oh, nice.
I hope so. Okay, another thing, I talked about Google and coming to this Google Wala question with your journey about getting into sales jobs with Google. A very personal element that I have felt, especially when I started my entrepreneurial journey, was the imposter syndrome. That voice in the head doing constantly like, and telling you that you're not good enough and stuff. And now, of course, thankfully in your case, because you had experience with McKinsey before, so my assumption would be that that imposter syndrome probably did not play that big role, but if it did, and what were those challenges moving from a content mindset, storytelling, journalist mindset to a sales ops role with a company like Google where you almost also felt like giving up and wanted to quit? What was your experience?
Right.
What were your fears? What were those fallings that you had to think of letting go an opportunity like Google?
So I think imposter syndrome was certainly there. So if you remember, I did say that I wanted to quit. I didn't know if it was the right thing for me. I didn't fit in. So the imposter syndrome was certainly there. I think what was really different was that in Google, unlike in Indian journalism back then, print journalism back then, everything was measurable. So like whatever you did, it had to be measured. What is the impact? What is the operational metric that you have? What is the success metric that you have? How do you know XYZ has been success? You need to track XYZ has been a success. You need to track it. Like you would work very closely with the data analytics team. If it's a simple project rollout, right? So for example, one of the projects that I was working on was we were getting, we had a support team in India, and we were supporting the AdWords users worldwide. So we would get a lot of support queries which the teams in India had to respond to. So one of the projects that I was leading was, how do we cut this volume by half? So your like very first thing is to figure out what are the sources, what are people writing about, quantify each of them. What can you cut? What would be the impact if you cut this? You would do a time and motion study. So you would just do a lot of these analysis, track each of them, and see, is it even successful, and report out 5.1% increase, 20% increase. So stuff like that.
Measuring,
so
yeah.
for example, I remember I was able to like working on customer satisfaction. CSAT was a big thing back then. Surprisingly, like you'd be surprised to hear, CSAT for AdWords was, I think, in the 60% range, which was like quite low. We were able to drive that up to 80%.
Wow.
So every single intervention which was required to get there had to be tracked. So these were things which I didn't know, simply because I had not done them earlier. But I guess you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it this learning that kind of also helped you tackle the imposter syndrome? And what else helped you tackle the imposter syndrome?
I think two things. I think somewhere the imposter syndrome I was able to tackle, not so much by learning, but by the realization that it's okay. We all figure it out.
Yeah.
So you start by winging it. हो जाता है ना, सब कर लेते हैं. So I told myself, the guy who made Flipkart successful, the Bansal, I can't remember his first name.
Binny Bansal.
Binny Bansal, right? It was his first time he made a company a $1 billion company. उसके पहले तो उसका experience नहीं था ना.
Yeah.
तो उसको कैसे पता चला that if I do this, I will become a unicorn. So he figured it out on the way. So I think it's okay. So my realization is that everyone figures it out. किसी का 1 billion जाएगा, किसी का 1 million जाएगा. That's okay. So you just figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and learning, I think, has been very good for me, because I think because I worked in multiple lateral roles, different types of companies, different types of functions, it's very easy for me to work with diverse stakeholders. I can work very easily with marketing, with product, with engineering, with sales, with finance, with investor relations. It's easy because I've been in multiple roles,
Right.
and I'm able to, in my mind, join the dots. So anyone who leads a business needs to work across these.
Yeah.
So because I have a reasonable understanding of many areas, I understand things and connect the dots.
Right. So, your career trajectory, of course, the fact that the lateral opportunities that you got, and that helped you ensure that you could experience managing and working alongside different teams, and thus manage different kind of stakeholders. A lot of that is a skill that is required in leadership roles. So for those looking to grow the ladder and walk up the path and become CXOs and grow their career journeys, how can they ensure they get better at stakeholder management, as also help me understand what are the skills that are required at this level?
I think one way, I can talk from my experience, right? I wasn't very good at stakeholder management. If I go back to a personal story at Google, there was this time when I was working very hard. I was always a hard worker. I would skip lunches. I would stay back late. I'd be sitting and working. Then time came for a promotion. Mera promotion nahi hua. I was expecting it. I didn't get a promotion. So then I went to the India head at that time was a lady called Stacey Brown. So I went to Stacey, and she was my immediate manager or my skip level, something like that. I said, "Mera promotion nahi hua." So Stacy said, yeah, but I don't even know what you work on, Juhi.
Huh?
I said, oh, I work all day. I do this, I do this, I do that. She said, at that time, Google is a 50,000-60,000 strong company. How do you expect people to know what you're working on? And the people in the promotion committee, you've got whatever, 3-5 people in the promotion committee. Who is vouching for you there? I said, ouch, I didn't know. मुझे तो लग रहा था मैं काम कर रही हूँ, मेरा promotion होगा. So that was a realization. So I opened an Excel sheet. I wrote down the names of all the key stakeholders. And I mapped each stakeholder to a project I was working on. I said, Stacy is aligned to this particular project. I should talk to her about this project, XYZ with this, XYZ with that. And then I made it a point to get out of my comfort zone and start meeting people and talking about my project. So पहले मेरा वो था, अरे काम करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. But then I realized that when I talk to people about my project, I am benefiting because they are sharing information which will help me improve my project. Hence, I will shine, right? So you are not networking just simply to hope that I will get a promotion. You are networking or meeting people because it is their feedback is genuinely helping you.
Yeah.
So yes, to your question, I would say that if you get opportunities to work across functions, great. If you don't, then you force yourself to create a mechanism where you try to meet the right stakeholders.
What I also hear in this element of your journey and this particular example that you shared from Google is ki don't fear to blow your own trumpet and speak to people. And I think a lot of times, especially that's my observation, but a lot of times women tend to just to work and think कि हाँ काम करते जाओ, फल की चिंता मत करो, फल खुद आएगा. लेकिन
नहीं आता है.
हाँ नहीं आता है. और काम करने के बाद बताओ भी, बात भी करो, speak to people, create those allies in the workforce. I think that's a very important lesson, and I'm sure the audience would definitely want to make a note of this. Stakeholder management is one thing. What else? And as a part of that, of course, you talked about building the network with a certain intention. What else is a part of the journey of growth and going to your CXO journey? What are some other key tools that you can keep handy and keep working on?
I think one more is to practice delegation and try it as you grow, right? So maybe 15-20 years into your career, try to change the ratio between execution and strategic work. So most people, especially women, execute, but you need to consciously try to reduce your time on execution, and that will happen only when you start to delegate, and that frees you up, right? And it is not like if I have let's say 20% free time, it is not like I'm sitting and thinking ab main kya strategy banau. Obviously not, right? But because your mind space is freed up, you are automatically reading more, you are automatically thinking more. It's not a conscious effort to sit and I will write a strategy document, but it just comes on its own. So that's what happened with me. I can say that when I started to free myself up, I saw that I was thinking bigger. So that, I think, is another tool which people should practice.
Anything else?
What else? I guess ongoing learning, that one remains. That's, I think, is a no-brainer.
So how do you keep your learning going on? What are the books that you read? Are there podcasts that you listen to? Anything that you would want to share that you keep as a...
I'm a very search-oriented person. When I want to know about something, I get onto YouTube or to Google and just start reading, and then just, going
down the rabbit hole.
Going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Interesting. Great insights. I am very curious about one thing, which is that while you are a marketer and in the gaming industry, do you also tend to play a lot of games? And if you do, what are your favorite ones? I'd definitely love to know.
I don't want to show you my phone what games I play. I play I play very simple games. I play simple match 3 games. I love jigsaw puzzle games. You know, I play those match tiles and stuff like that. But I also enjoy car racing games. From the time, remember, यहाँ पे SX Farms में you had those arcade games, right?
Arcade games, yeah.
So from the time of arcade games, I used to love those racing games.
Yeah.
And I play those even in the form of video games. And I'm also very fond of driving. So you know, I think that somewhere fits in. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, I'm not an avid gamer, but yeah, racing games and arcade games used to be my thing as well.
Yeah.
But not gotten them for a very long time. I might just do
I even
a
like those
little-
bike games, you know,
Oh,
like you would go like this,
Oh,
you would go
yes.
like this. They were
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Tell me this, that you of course leading the marketing for BlueStacks and now GG. How's your day usually like? What is it that keeps you sane amidst chaotic days, especially in the marketing industry and the gaming industry? Sorry, in the gaming industry, there's so much that is dynamic right now, right? In your case, of course, the audience is outside, so maybe the Indian regulations do not affect as much. But despite that, I assume that there's so much that keeps happening.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself centered and calm? And what's
Yeah.
your ritual, if I may ask?
Yeah. So I'm still mostly working from home. I've been working from home for 3 years now. I do have an option to go to office. You know, we do have an office here on Golf
Yeah.
Course Road. So I go once in a while, but largely I work from home. So my typical day is I do my morning meetings with EST, PST,
Times, yeah.
Eastern Standard and Pacific
Pacific
time
Standard
zones.
Time, yeah.
So that's where a few of the leadership team members are. I do that in the morning. Then I do a couple of meetings in India, which is India time zone. Then I try to go to the gym in the middle of the afternoon, around from
Okay.
12 to 1. That's the time I try to keep. अक्सर होता है, अक्सर नहीं होता है, but still that's what I do. Then come back, lunch, whatever, do another meeting. If it's been a long day, if I have early morning and late evening meetings, I may even nap for half an hour. More
Wow.
meetings, more
Afternoon
work.
siesta, is it?
हाँ,
Wow.
you know, I think now I'm at that age अब थक जाती हूँ. So I think 20 to 30 minutes कभी कभी I need.
Yeah.
Just then a bunch of other meetings, typically finish by 6:37ish. I finish. Walks. I've now started a girl gang. So you know, I turned 50 a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So when I turned 50, I told myself I'll say yes to everything. पहले था ये नहीं करना, वो नहीं करना, यहाँ नहीं जाना, इससे नहीं मिलना, ये नहीं पहनना, ये मुझे सूट नहीं करता. I said I don't care. Yes to all new experiences. So all this while I was very busy working. I didn't take the time out to socialize. So now I have this nice fun girl gang. We hang out, we go clubbing, partying. So our next session is a wine and makeup session. So like one of these girls in the group, she is a personal stylist. So you know she does wonderful makeup. हमको मुझे आता नहीं करना. So I said, you know, we come home, we'll do a wine and makeup session. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, so we do fun stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I love the idea of having that girl gang and people that you can just, your inner circle, I think, that kind of just keeps you sane amidst all the practical madness that work life brings to you. So with that, we are at a part where I would bring to you the CXO Talks Ritual, which is we pass on a question from the last CXO to the next CXO.
Sure.
In the last episode, we had Aditi Handa, who's the co-founder of the Baker's Dozen. Jinka walnut banana bread is one of my favorites. Like I can just drool. Okay, I'm gonna control it. But the question that she has for you, Juhi, is that you know, when you realize, especially in the workspace, that you've probably made a mistake. So how long do you wait before you rectify it? When you've identified there's something that's gone wrong, whether at your end or in your team's workspace, how long before you work on rectifying it?
Immediate. Absolutely immediate. And as far as if it's my own mistake, immediate, I let the people know, like, I mean, whoever will be impacted by it. If I can, more often than not, you may not be able to fix it yourself. So it's important to let people know, and you're able to fix it with them. If it's my team, I think, like, the way I work with my teams is that it's ongoing feedback, whether it is good or not good feedback. It is ongoing on an everyday basis. We'd be talking, ये ऐसे कर देते हैं, वैसे कर देते हैं, ये ठीक नहीं हुआ, वैसे कर लो. So I don't wait for an appraisal meeting or a one-on-one to do it. So that's
Great.
what I do.
Thank you for sharing that and answering Aditi's question.
Sure.
Now is the time when you get to pass on the question to the next CXO.
Yeah.
What will your question be, Juhi?
So I think my question is for younger women, how do they find a mentor? I faced this problem. I never had a mentor. I tried an executive coach, which was okay, but I never had a mentor. So how do you identify a mentor? How do you approach them? How do you initiate conversations? I think if I had a mentor 10 years ago, I would probably have been in a slightly different place.
That's a very powerful question, and I'm sure that we'll have this addressed by the next CXO on CXO Talks. But thank you so much. This has been a very insightful
Thank
conversation, Juhi. I think right from storytelling to insights on the gaming industry and the representation of women in the gaming industry, so much that we talked about today gave me a lot of insights, and as will it to our audience. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was fantastic talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.